Dave, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. Are you voting for Donald Trump or Chase Oliver for president?
I am. I cannot see myself voting for either of those people. I'm a Biden guy, and I just think he's got what it takes. Look,
I can make the argument for Biden.
Sure,
he's a disaster who makes the establishment, the Uniparty, look horrible.
It's not a terrible argument.
Gridlock and acceleration.
I think Michael Malice's argument is let them keep exposing themselves. I'm sure Malice would be happy if there was a good candidate who actually did the right thing. But don't ignore the positives of the failures of Biden.
It's a thing that a lot of people have trouble wrapping their head around because it does not, all of us are human beings in general. We're all stupid and lazy, and we want to be stupid and lazy. Like, that's what we all want, and you have to fight against that. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to work on something, you have to make yourself get off the couch. The couch feels better than getting up and working on something. And you want information that confirms your already held views, and things that are more complex are upsetting. But the truth is that sometimes, not always, but sometimes it's in a right-winger's best interest for a Democrat to win. And sometimes it's in a left-winger's best interest for a Republican to win. For example, if you were, let's say, the Southern Poverty Law Center in 2016, Hillary Clinton winning is not the best thing for you. Donald Trump winning was way better for you. If you're CNN, Donald Trump winning was way better for you.
If you're Planned Parenthood.
Yes. So there are, at least, I'm saying it's not always clear. And there at least are some advantages to having Joe Biden and compared to Donald Trump. One of those is that Donald Trump energizes your enemies in a way that nobody else does. And that's something that I do think should at least be considered into the equation.
But I got to say, I think the honest and logical response, and from you too, Angela, even though I know you can't, is to vote for Donald Trump. And for two big reasons. Getting a libertarian in a cabinet position dramatically empowers the Libertarian Party. This will effectively put the big L Libertarian Party in the press almost every single day on a major issue. And the other is an opportunity and hope that we're going to get our troops out. We're going to get a little bit more of that in the right direction, despite the bad, because I will respect 100%. Every time I have this conversation about foreign policy, they'll say the drone strikes, the commando raids. I'm like, yep. He did still try to do things we've not seen before. Sure. I'll take that. But I do think that the opportunity for a cabinet position of the Libertarian Party legitimizes the LP in a massive way.
I mean, there's a lot more than that, right? Like, he got up on stage and said that he would free Ross Ulbricht. And now maybe...
No Assange.
We're getting close. I'm still working on it. The fact that I can say and be dead serious that I'm still working on it is a huge, huge thing. Freeing Ross Ulbricht. So Ross Ulbricht is the Libertarian Party. Like, he's our sweetheart. He's a political prisoner. He's in prison for creating Silk Road. He's been mislabeled a drug dealer.
But did he really create it? He's the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Sure. Yes, he is the Dread Pirate.
The theory, or one of the working theories, is that the reason the creator of the Silk Road used the moniker Dead Pirate Roberts was the implication that the person who made it would pass it off to someone.
Right.
And the person who was running it was not always the same person.
Well, and I don't know that
it's like Gossip Girl.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever got to the point where it could be passed off. But it's not just about Ross. It's about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency freedom, and it's a sharp rebuke of the deep state. And that's why it's really critical.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'll just say it like this is my attitude toward it. If Donald Trump keeps all of those promises, if he's in, that would be great. And that would be better than what we'll get under Joe Biden on those issues for sure. I do think that as far as you asking me who I'm going to vote for, I have never been and still am not a huge believer in this kind of the theater of voting for president. And I think it's kind of weird. Like, there's a quasi-religious aspect to it where if there was anything else that you were like, hey, Dave, are you going to do this thing where you have a 1 in 160 millionth of, an effect on? And I would be like, no, I'm not spending 2 hours to do that. You'd be like, yeah, it's a total waste of time. I mean, like, literally call your mom, high five a homeless guy. You'll have more of an impact on the world than voting for president, especially if you live in like a deep red or a deep blue state, as I do, and where you already know the outcome of this. Your vote essentially is a protest vote anyway at that point. To me, what I always see more is like my role in all of this is that I just try to tell the truth. Like, that's what I think there's the game of like political calculations, and then there's the game of just telling the truth. And the more you get into the game of political calculations, the less you have the freedom to just tell the truth about anything you want to. So that's what I focus on. That being said, if Trump gets in and does all the great stuff you've gotten him to promise to do, I will certainly be pleased with that and give you the credit.
But so there's a simple component.
With me taking a little bit of credit for leading the Mises Caucus takeover.
For pumping up the numbers.
And there is the simple version of, if I go vote, what does it matter? But the real point of the question is, to the hundreds of thousands or more of people who are looking for confident leadership, and they don't know if they can trust Trump. So they ask, Dave, I know you've been right about all of these things. I'm curious how you feel about this. Again,
I'm giving my honest. Listen,
exactly.
My honest answer is that also that I don't look. Donald Trump was. You can point to the 5 areas where he was very solid, and there were like a few things that he did very, very well. And like even within the realm of foreign policy, I mean, there were a few specific, detailed things. I mean, immediately in 2017, he ended the CIA program of backing the anti-Assad rebels in Syria. And magically, ISIS was, and then he always brags about how we killed ISIS, but really...
You mean he turned it off?
Well, yeah, exactly. And Vladimir Putin had something to do with killing ISIS too, but regardless of that, but that was a great move. He did negotiate the withdrawal from Afghanistan after surging in Afghanistan, which a war that he knew was unwinnable, that he ran on ending, so a little bit of a mixed bag, but he ultimately did it. But the real issues is that there are... The United States of America is like a patient bleeding out with 12 bullet wounds. And to say, hey, I put my finger on this one while I actually shot the patient again 2 more times in these other areas is not quite good enough for me. And the real thing that nobody wants to talk about this because it's just not that sexy of an issue. And if it wasn't for libertarians, it would probably never come up anymore. But government spending is such an important issue that not only are we destroying this country under a mountain of debt that we're passing off to the next generation, but look, this is the corruption. This is the swamp. The reason why we live in such a corrupt system is because government spending has gone up so much. This is the money being extracted from the American people, given to the politically connected. He increased that every single year, and his final year was 2020, where he was just like a disaster through the whole year.
Yes, but Dave, you're wrong on one thing. We are not passing off this debt to the next generation. It will be default by the time it gets to the next generation.
That is true.
Social Security is expected to begin its collapse in 2033, and by 2037, it's supposed to be completely insolvent.
All right, fine. We're the next generation. It got passed off to us.
Yeah, that's it. We're us. It's Gen Zs. They're going to be in their 30s, and they're going to be like, well, that's it. No money. System's broke.
So I've pushed for a little involvement in Department of Treasury too. We'll see.
That would be good.
I do believe, I would bet money that if Trump gets elected, he will put a libertarian in his cabinet because it is a zero-cost maneuver.
Correct.
It's easy for him. And even if it's not even a great position, I really do think that when you have a Libertarian Party prominent personality speaking at a podium for the press corps or whatever and saying, here's what our plan is, and their name appears on the screen with a big L next to it, that is a massive move in the right direction for this country.
Yeah, well, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, and I do agree with you on the bullet holes of the patient. I don't know that there's actually a way to save this dying patient.
We're not going to stop spending.
Here's what I think. I think the uniparty establishment's worldview is we don't have to save the patient so long as we point guns at everyone else around the world and force them to treat our decaying corpse.
Yes.
So we're basically strapped to this medical
Or
gurney.
Joe Biden.
Oh, absolutely. Hooked up with wires. And we're just grimacing at other countries like, you better give me the drugs I need to live. And they're terrified. I always think of it this way because I really don't think Donald Trump's worldview is massively deep. I think he's like, I like America. I don't understand why they're doing these things. These things are bad. I look at it a bit more deeply as the results of what a Trump or Trumpian worldview policies result in. When I see the Biden administration, Hillary Clinton, Obama, it is as we don't produce a lot. We're losing manufacturing to China and other countries. It has improved a bit in the past couple of years, partly because of Trump. Biden's also now stealing Trump policies. But the idea was, so long as we maintain the petrodollar through hegemonic power and military bases around the world, we don't need to export anything because we control the printing of the petrodollar. And if anyone wants oil, they got to come to us first. So free economy for us. Trump's worldview and his people are like, this system is on the verge of collapse. In the past 15 years, we have seen massive dumping of U.S. dollars by Russia and China. They are saying no to the petrodollar. And now, anyone could have predicted this. The petrodollar deal with Saudi Arabia expired, and Saudi Arabia has not re-upped, meaning now they're going to start trading in yuan or rubles or something else. So now the U.S. is no longer guaranteed to get that free revenue in purchasing of petrodollar. The Trump worldview says we better secure our borders, get rid of Trans-Pacific Partnership, bring factories back, start manufacturing chips here. You can clearly see that we can't keep paying for NATO's defenses. Their expansionism makes no sense. If China takes Taiwan, we can't defend it, and then we lose access to chips. They need to do it here. Whether or not Trump's policies are actually built around that worldview, Trump himself, that's the direction it was going. And I say, we better do that because the ship is sinking. I don't, you mentioned before, like trying to save the American empire. I'm glad to see the empire.
Oh, no. I want to save the nation.
Exactly.
We have to. My point is we have to abandon the empire in order to save the nation.
Exactly. I'm not saying you were saying you wanted to. I'm saying like that was what their goal was. And I'm like, I say the empire sink. And then the United States secure its borders, mind its own business, get sound currency, get jobs and manufacturing back. And that direction, for better or for worse, is the Trump direction. I have no guarantees that Trump actually makes that happen, but that's I'm looking at a fork in the road and I see that and I'm like, I'll go that way.
Yeah, no, listen, I certainly understand the argument. I mean, there's a strong case to be made there. Look, I guess the real issue is that I just wish that I saw Trump actually making that argument. Look, Donald Trump, it just seems like, so even earlier in the campaign, I remember it was one of the CNN town halls he did where he had that very aggressive woman who was asking him questions, if you guys remember this back from last year, and his answer on Ukraine was like perfect. And she tried to like pin him down on it.
That was the town hall they ended early, right?
Yes, and he's just crushing. And his answer was perfect. She goes, so don't you want Ukraine to win? And he goes, I want people to stop dying.
Yeah.
I want the war to be over. Like, I just want to negotiate an end to this. And she's like, so you don't care about Ukraine winning? And he's like,
it's like you want people to die.
By the way, the people who care so much about Ukraine winning, look at where that's gotten us. It's gotten us more of them dying. And they're still losing on top of that. So I'm just saying his answer was perfect. Then cut to this last spending bill that Mike Johnson all of a sudden flipped and got behind. And Trump's bragging about how it's a loan, not a gift. Even though, by the way, it's a loan at 0% interest with no enforcement mechanism for them paying it back. It was just more of a gift. So and then at the same time, his criticism of Biden over the war in Israel seems to be that he's like, he goes, in between giving Israel all those bombs, you sent some food to Gaza, you wimp. Yeah, you could be harder on him.
Yep.
I'll be a better friend to Israel. I mean, he's actually kind of making the argument that we should be at least as involved in Ukraine and more involved in the war in Gaza. And that, to me, does not signal that this guy is actually leading us in a direction where we would be more America first. But the crazy thing that's frustrating about it is that I think it would be enormously popular amongst his base, and particularly if you add in Donald Trump's sales ability. Like, Donald Trump is the one guy who could convince the entire right half of America that, no, this is not what we believe in. We don't believe in funding proxy wars of choice around the world on behalf of other nations that are either have zero strategic vital interest for us, or in the case of Israel, are a clear cost to America, that it is clearly against our vital strategic interests. Like, why is it that we want to be going down the tubes with Israel's reputation? Why? Why do we want to be complicit in this horrific assault? Like, call it a genocide or just call it a mass murder campaign. Why on earth would we want to piss off not just the entire Muslim world, but now, like, the entire world is condemning what Israel's doing?
I agree with you on those points, but where I disagree is I don't know that those are immediately disqualifying based on the things he's already done, but they are valid points that should be addressed and brought up to him and anybody who is advocating for him. Vivek, I know if you
Angela, text me Trump's number real quick.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna get on the horn with him.
Vivek would give you a
Set up that
world-class
meeting for
answer.
us.
Vivek was a smart move by Trump and Vivek working with him because that's a smart guy. And if you brought that up, he'd give you a world-class answer. But I think it is a legitimate concern. We've talked about this. Mike Johnson is all on board with Ukraine funding, and Trump has bragged about working with him. And this is, as you mentioned, that I want people to stop dying. Our hope is, my hope, and people who have similar feelings to me, because I don't represent all Trump supporters for certainly, is that he's the guy who can simmer down World War III and stop it from happening. But if we're getting more funding to Ukrainian troops and Israel, that's the wrong direction. Yeah. I do want to mention one thing. Give a shout out to Aiden Mattis of Lore Lodge, because he was on the other day, and he made a hilarious point. He said that Gary Johnson's position on Aleppo was the correct one.
Yes.
What is it?
Yes.
And it's like, literally, the president is a foreign policy guy who should know what's going on. But I love the response of, we shouldn't care. Yeah. We should be like, look, that's halfway around the world, and the American people deserve our focus.
Well, so okay, see, I half agree with you, but I'd say in a better world, that would be a totally appropriate answer. The problem is when you're running for president in 2016 and for 4 years your government has been funding a civil war in Syria, and you're really supposed to know what Aleppo is, because now it actually does really matter to the job. And the same thing is like in my heart of hearts, I kind of, maybe not like 100%, but I like 80% agree with you that it's like, I just don't care. I don't care about the rest of the world. I care about America. Like, I 80% agree with that. There's 20% of me who's like, oh, I do kind of care about this conflict or whatever. Not that we should be involved, but like that I'm interested in it or something. But the thing is, like, as an American, I don't think you can have that attitude in Syria. I don't think you can have that attitude in Israel, because the truth is that the whole thing is an American operation. And so at this point, it's like, no, it's not enough to just say like, hey, that's like not our concern. It's like, actually, this is our concern because we are the ones causing this.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I gotta push back a little bit. I agree with you on the 80-20 thing. That's about where I am. I'm not an isolationist. I am concerned, and you should be. If we're seeing war erupt in Syria, Turkey, Afghanistan, anywhere, we should know about it in case it can expand to any of our interests, which is at home. But I don't necessarily agree with we should care about what's going on there because of what we did. Ron Paul said something really fascinating like 17, 18 years ago. Afghanistan got the wrong prescription, and when you give the wrong prescription, you cut it off. You don't keep them on it. Yeah. If a doctor gave, so if the prescription was invasion, what they keep saying is, we can't just leave now. It'll cause too many problems. Ron Paul's position was, nope, we leave. And that's it.
Oh, to be clear, I'm also advocating we leave. I'm not saying we stay there. I'm just saying that it's like, look, like what's going on right now in Gaza is that a war is, I don't even know if war is the right word. I don't know if just bombing the crap out of a captive people is a war exactly, but whatever you want to call it. There's a mass slaughter campaign with U.S. weapons being dropped while U.S. drones fly over Gaza and give the Israeli government intelligence information about that. So when that's happening now, this is our country. Look, this is a huge part of what motivated the hijackers on 9/11 was us backing up Israel. I'm saying from that perspective, we should be interested to get disinterested in the situation. I agree. We should have no part in this.
Is it worth it to try to curb the damage by like 10%?
Well, what do you mean? And
if we, through our influence as libertarians, can scale it back just by 10%, is it worth it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you're voting for Trump.
10%, but 10% is a pipe dream. You know what I mean? Like 10%. 10%.
Joe Jorgensen got 1.2% in 2020.
I don't mean vote totals.
No, she's saying like of the evil stuff the government does. If we can,
I'm just pointing out that Joe Jorgensen got 1.2%.
We are.
Well,
I don't know how that translates. I'm just saying it was.
I know how it translates. We are the most powerful voting bloc in the country right now, and we will decide the 2024 election results.
I believe that's true.
It will depend 100% on what we do. Me, the state chairs for swing states, and a handful of other people. We are the ones.
So what has Joe Biden offered you?
Well, received. I believe those were the words that his team said.
Really?
Received.
So you did make demands.
I didn't make demands. I issued an invitation.
Right.
We're just getting. I mean, I declare war on Joe Biden and his campaign. I endorse Chase Oliver as the best way to take votes from Joe Biden. Get in, loser.
Do you know if
We're supporting Chase Oliver and we're stealing votes from Joe.
We'll start here. This is the conspiracy theory that there was a backroom meeting where I'm imagining Dave Smith wearing a nice, finely tailored suit and tie, you wearing this very wonderful pantsuit, and Clint Russell as well, Michael Rechtenwald, Termott, Chase Oliver, and you all sat down and said, if Dave Smith is the nominee, it will pull votes from Trump and Biden will win, and the deep state will be able to secure entrenchment and push out any anti-establishment forces. And so a secret plan was hatched where Dave would mysteriously bow out from the race, and the deeply unpopular Chase Oliver would become the nominee to siphon progressive votes from the Democrat, ensuring Trump's victory. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.